Inside Microsoft Office, an old component stayed alive for 17 years. A tiny executable nobody thought about. It wasn't updated, it had no protection, and no reason to check it. And because it loaded automatically with certain documents, millions of systems opened it every single day without knowing it. For almost 2 decades, this forgotten piece of code sat untouched, until researchers finally looked. And when they did, they found a flaw so simple to exploit that just opening a document was enough to take control. CVE-2017-11882 is a remote code execution vulnerability inside Microsoft Office's old equation editor component, with a CVSS score of 7.8. The vulnerability was discovered by the embedded security team during a targeted review of legacy Office components. They reverse engineered the old equation editor binary and found an unprotected buffer inside its parsing code. The executable itself was compiled back in the year 2000 and never updated, which meant it lacked modern protections like ASLR, stack guards, and basic bound checks. The vulnerability was a classic stack buffer overflow. A specially crafted document, usually in RTF, could send more data in the equation editor than its buffer was designed to hold. Because there was no boundary checks, that extra data spilled over into the stack and overwrote the function's return address. Once the return address was under the attacker's control, execution was redirected straight into their shellcode. And this is how the attack chain went. Step 1. A phishing email delivers a malicious RTF document to the victim. Step 2. The victim opens the file. Office automatically launches the old equation editor component to handle the embedded equation object. Step 3. The malformed data in the object triggers the buffer overflow, overwrites the return address, and the attacker's shellcode takes over execution. Step 4. The shellcode reaches out to the command and control server over the network, downloads the real malware payload and runs it. From there, the payload can be almost anything: a banking Trojan, a keylogger, a remote access tool, or ransomware. Exploitation began almost immediately after the vulnerability was disclosed. Throughout 2018 and 2019, it became one of the most widely used Office exploits in the wild. Cybercrime groups like Fin7, TA505, and Carbonac used it in large-scale financial attacks, and state-aligned groups such as APT28 and APT37 used it for espionage. Malware families delivered through this one flaw, including Agent Tesla, Formbook, Banduke, Gozi, Gootkit, and Smokeloader. And even in 2023, phishing campaigns were still abusing CVE 2017-11882 against unpatched systems. Microsoft patched the vulnerability in November 2017, but the fix was unusual. They no longer had the original source for the equation editor, so they reverse engineered the binary and manually added boundary checks directly into the executable. A few months later, a second update removed the old equation editor entirely and replaced it with a modern implementation. The fix worked, but only on systems that were actually patched. Older versions of Office, especially 2007, 2010, and 2013, stayed widely unpatched, which is why the exploit continued to be effective for years. Because this exploit was used in banking fraud, credential theft operations, and ransomware campaigns, the financial impact is impossible to calculate, but the groups abusing it were responsible for massive losses across their wider operations, including tens of millions stolen by Fin7, over $1 billion attributed to Carbonac crime syndicate, and multi-million-dollar ransomware incidents linked to TA505. Trend Micro reported that phishing campaigns were still abusing this bug years later, and Unit 42 described it as one of the most consistently exploited Office vulnerabilities used by cybercrime groups. CVE 2017-11882 is a reminder that old components buried inside modern software can still create major security gaps. Parsing bugs and legacy executables remain high-value targets in Office documents, and attackers rely on the fact that patching across large organizations is slow. A forgotten 17-year-old flaw became one of the most reliable Office exploits of this decade because it stayed hidden, it stayed unpatched, and it stayed a live target. That was CVE 2017-11882, the equation editor vulnerability. If you enjoyed this breakdown, we post new CVE episodes every other week. Subscribe so you don't miss out, And don't forget to like, it really helps out the channel. I'll see you in the next one.